everybody, and welcome to Taking Control, the ADHD podcast on rashpixel.fm. I'm Pete Wright, and that there is Nikki Kinzer.
Hello, Pete Wright. Hello, everyone.
Howdy, Nikki Kinzer.
Howdy.
Howdy.
That's odd.
It's my youth. It's my youth. Sometimes I channel my youth.
Do you?
I do. I've been known to. Sometimes I put on a wee cowboy hat. Anyway, we're talking about unstructured time today, and dealing with unstructured time and the challenges that come with unstructured time when you are living and breathing with ADHD.
And when you have unstructured time, you put your cowboy hat on and you say howdy.
You may be known to do that.
Yeah, that's right.
You know I used to ride horses, right? That was my thing.
I didn't.
Horses are my jam, as the youth say.
That's right.
Yeah. Western show. I used to have to go preen around on my horse with my shiny saddle.
Really?
My shiny spur. Yes.
That's interesting.
Yes, I did. Oh, it's more than interesting.
I'm scared of horses.
What?
Yes.
How could you be scared of horses?
Because they're so big and they can stomp on me.
Yeah, but they don't.
They could.
Generally. They could.
They have
what
shoes.
kind of horses do you think you're going to be riding?
They have special shoes that could stomp on people.
I could think of your next dream vacation. Nikki Kinzer tries to break a horse. That would be awesome.
No.
A wild stallion.
No. Yeah, they scare me. They've always scared me.
Dealing with unstructured time.
Yes.
That's what we're going to be talking about. Unstructured podcast. Before we do that, head over to takecontroladhd.com. Get to know us a little bit better. Listen to the show right on the website. Subscribe to the mailing list right there on the homepage. We'll send you an email each time a new episode goes live. You can connect with us on Twitter or Facebook at Take Control ADHD and call us at 503-664-4ADD and get your thoughts and your voice and all your questions on this show. We want to hear from
call
you.
Us. We haven't had a phone call in a long time.
No, I know. We've got. I'll tell you, I've got a bunch of emails, and I want to apologize to people who have written for technical advice on apps, advice on. It's coming. I'm stacking them up, and so I think what I'll probably do is just we'll the next tech episode, the next digital episode is going to be a Q&A, and we'll just bust through a whole bunch of tech questions. So. Keep those coming. I've got a lot of emails, but we haven't had a voicemail in forever.
No, so call. All right.
Yeah, 503-664-4ADD. And don't forget those 5-star reviews in iTunes and recommendations in your favorite podcast player really help other people discover the show when they need help. So we appreciate you paying it forward and dropping us a kind review. Thank you. Okay. Before we go completely off the rails, Nikki, let's deal with unstructured time.
Yes. It's the ADHD time zone.
Mm-hmm.
I know, right? You want to sing
ADHD Twilight Zone.
That's what I was going to say. I wish we could use that music. So just think about that for a moment.
Not good.
It's it's really like no other time zone, right? It's a little messy, complicated.
Also, it's yeah, right. It's not a real time zone.
No, but it could be, and it's not real consistent.
It's kind of binary for me. Like if I go into the ADHD time zone, I'm either always hyper-focusing or doing absolutely nothing.
Right.
I'm doing the old, sure, I can just watch one episode of that Netflix show.
Right.
Which is a lie.
Right.
Because that's not a thing.
Well, and that's why dealing with unstructured time can be so difficult. Is because of this ADHD time zone. What do you do with it?
That's right.
Do you get lost on Netflix or do you try to do something productive?
Mostly get lost on Netflix. Thank you.
Really. But yeah.
Next episode.
Yeah. We're done now. Okay. No, well, and it's a pattern that I see a lot where people, they don't like to admit this because I think that people like to have flexibility and structure sometimes is scary. But at the same time, they really crave that structure because it gives them a map and they don't have to think about what to do next. The decision making's already been done. Deadlines have already been set. Your adrenaline kicks in and you go and you get it done. But when you don't have that, when the structured time, I'll have to edit that out. When the structured time goes into unstructured time, then, what the heck do you do with that? What do you do if you just have an hour or so to do something when you haven't planned or blocked anything out? And I think this is where people kind of freeze because they really don't know. And, it's a big blur of, well, what can I do? I have so much to do. but they can't like zero in on it.
I think the challenge comes, my hypothesis is, based on, again, rigorous empirical research, is that the challenge with unstructured time, if you are not compromised, right? If you are fully in your head, it's totally great to have an hour of unstructured time. And it's great even to let that hour of unstructured time flit on by, sitting on the couch, staring at a butterfly, right?
You're right. And I'm going to talk about that in just a minute.
Well, that's it. Because for me, I get mired in the shame, right? And that's when I'm compromised and have unstructured time. That's when I let Netflix autoplay and watch 7 episodes instead of just 1.
Well, and it's interesting because in the blog this week, I'm going to talk about time wasters, like some of the top time wasters. And that's when this happens, is that you have this hour, you don't really know what to do. And so you do nothing, or you, like you said, I watch 1 show, I watch 2 shows, and that guilt and that shame kicks in. And then as soon as the hour is over, or the last show that you've watched is over, then all of a sudden you can remember everything that you should have done.
Oh, yes.
Right? It's
all
like
at once.
All at once. You're like, I can't believe I didn't do this. I could have done that. And and then all of a sudden it's too late. So it's a bad cycle. So we want to talk about a little bit on how to handle unstructured time. Like, what are some things that you could do to prevent the shame and the disappointment, right? Because we want to get away from that.
That's what I'm most interested in, for sure.
Okay. So this is going to sound strange because unstructured time is time that you haven't really planned for. But I'm going to suggest that you kind of pre-plan for your unstructured time. It sounds so strange, I know. But I think, as when we talk about planning, we know that planning is really important if we want to be intentional with our time. And so I think if you know that you're going to have a little bit of buffer time in between the day, and you're going to have an hour or two to actually look at your tasks and think through what you could do in that hour before the hour starts. So at least it kind of gets you started. It gets you thinking so that you're not doing that. You're not remembering it after it's too late. The other thing I think to look at it with downtime or with unstructured time is, what is it that you want to do? And this is what you were saying. Maybe this is not the time for you to work. I mean, maybe every hour and every minute doesn't need to be accounted for. Maybe this is the hour that you really just sit on the couch and relax and don't feel guilty about it.
Yeah, and that's what I was getting to. Like, if you're compromised, that's when you start feeling guilt and shame. But if you're intentional about it and you say, look, I have an hour, I'm going to set my alarm for an hour, and maybe I'll just close my eyes. I don't care it's 1:00 in the afternoon. Maybe I've got a half hour before my next meeting starts, and I have all my tasks will take 35 minutes. And mostly I just want to close my eyes. I'm not going to feel bad about that. I'm going to be super productive in a half hour when that alarm goes off. And right now I'm just going to let myself be like that. That's got to be okay. And we are really hard on ourselves when we face unstructured time in that regard, and don't give permission, right?
You don't give yourself permission because you think it has to be an hour where you're doing something. And that really is kind of the pre-planning part of it too, is that you can kind of pre-plan or decide, is this really an hour where I need to do something? Then great, this is what I'm going to do. So you've got it figured out. Or is this an hour where I can just go and relax and not feel bad about it? And that's a little bit of pre-planning too. But exactly, it's like giving yourself permission to have that downtime, that it is okay to relax. It's okay to just chill.
Right. And there's kind of a difference between planning the space and planning the time, right? If you're planning the space, you say, hey, I have a half hour, I'm just going to see what happens next. And planning the time is, okay, I have a half hour. What can I do in that half hour that's on my list so I can take advantage of it?
Right.
And you really get to give yourself a choice between those two. You get to do that. That's opportunity. You don't just have to feel bad.
Exactly. And to get away from the hyperfocus part, because what if you do end up watching watching Netflix and one show, turns into another and so forth. Do remember to use those alarms, right, for that unstructured time, because it's easy for one show to turn into 3 or 4 hours of your time if you're not careful. So if you do need to get back to whatever it is that you were doing, don't forget to use the alarms just as a quick reminder that, okay, now it's time to go back.
Right.
The other thing that I guess this kind of goes with really giving ourselves permission, but unstructured time is a blessing. It's not a curse. And so I think if people can really look at it as, wow, I'm lucky to have this space in my day. Because most days I'm running around busy, like I can't catch a breath, which just causes stress and anxiety. So if you have a day where you have some downtime, I mean, this is a real true blessing to your mental health. And that's how I would look at it. That this is not a bad thing. This is a good thing. And how can I take advantage of this?
Absolutely.
The other thing that I would suggest doing when you are with unstructured time, especially because unstructured time is stressful for many because they do have so many things that they're looking at. They don't know what to do. So they're feeling overwhelmed, and that's where they kind of freeze, right? They kind of just go and do nothing. One of my suggestions would be to, before you start anything, just meditate. Just take a couple of minutes where you're breathing, deeply and in and out, and just kind of center yourself so that you can have some of that overwhelm leave your body, right? So you're less tense. And then go ahead and start on that next task. I think that just having that moment where you can just sort of acknowledge the overwhelm and let it go can really help and make a big difference.
It makes your unstructured time actually pleasurable or productive, no matter what you choose to do or not do.
Yeah, absolutely.
As long as you can free your brain from it.
So let me ask you this, because I've kind of referenced you have an hour or two during the day. What about the weekend? Like, how do you structure your weekends?
It's kind of a tricky question, because when it comes to the weekends, like generally, it's not all that unstructured. Right. After all, right. I mean, I have a lot of other demands that happen on the weekends. Maybe it's some sort of a kid's sporting event, or maybe it's a, swim meet or something like that. Maybe it's just mowing the lawn. Maybe it's cleaning the gutter. Like, there's always going to be something that I need to work into the time on the weekend, not to mention in my case, the great sort of shared collective guilt and shame that we're just not spending enough time together as a family. And what can we do to sort of work in consciously, that shared time on the weekend where we don't feel like we're constantly dealing with, obligations. And so, we tend to do the same thing when we do our weekly planning, is we figure out, what are the big blocks of time that each of us has to take care of, individually. And then once we fill those in, we actually talk about, okay, maybe we can work in a hike here, or maybe we can wake up. One of our traditions as the family is we wake up, all of us, early morning on Sunday, and we watch the show CBS Sunday Morning, right? It's this totally non-political thing that feels good. And for us, it starts at 7:00 in the morning, and we're all huddled up in our pajamas with our coffee or hot chocolate watching CBS Sunday Morning. It is a really satisfying way to spend some time together. And we talk about the stories, and it's super fun. So, that's a thing that's on our calendar. Like, it's on our Sunday morning calendar, the shared calendar for the family. And so we tend to be diligent and proactive when it comes to building out our schedule for the weekend. But that doesn't mean it's easy. And there, never fails. One of us is kind of feeling bad that we're either not present enough or want to be more present with the other of us. So it's a little bit of a social check that that we have to be present, or else, again, the guilt and shame kicks in. I don't know. How do you guys do it?
A lot of the times it's dictated around the schedules for the kids' sports, right? Because both of them play sports. And so the games are always on the weekend. And that really is the center of when are the games. And then we can kind of plan our day, around those games. But,
right.
So I think that that's kind of where we start. I know like on Sundays, I typically will do the meal planning and the grocery shopping, and I try to get the laundry done over the weekend, so that on Sunday it feels like a fresh start for the week.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you've got food in the house, the clothes are dried. So I would say that Sundays are definitely kind of a chore day, like a day where we're just getting stuff done and cleaned up and everything. Saturday's probably more of a fun day. Like if we're going to do anything fun as a family, it's probably going to be more on a Saturday. But it's very, it's not a lot of routine because it just always varies on when those schedules are going to be, those game schedules.
That is really the challenge, isn't it? Is figuring out like how to navigate. We're in and both of us are kind of in the same space where so much of our time is dictated, by the kids and what the kids have mandatory schedule stuff, right? There's stuff they have to do, and we got to kind of adapt to that. And so whatever other structure we may want to apply, and however else we may be feeling at a given moment, sort of goes out the window as we make room for that. So I think that's really important to just recognize.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Well, and I would love to hear from people. So if you feel like you want your voice on the air, which we would love to have it, right? Call that number and tell us how you guys deal with unstructured time, because I bet there's some pretty good ideas out there that we could share.
Yeah, so keep us posted. Let us know how you're handling it. Post it on Facebook, share it, call us. We'd love to hear from you. That, I think, is it. So make sure you check out the blog this week to learn more about the time wasters to avoid from Nikki. And
coming soon.
We're talking a lot more about time. Dealing with time. Be on the alert.
Be on time.
Be on time. Keep your ear to the tracks, people, because we got a new course coming out.
New course, Organizing Time with ADHD. It's coming.
In a matter of time. It's coming. That's right.
Until next time.
Until next time. On behalf of Nikki Kinzer, I'm Pete Wright. Thank you so much for your time and your precious attention. We sure appreciate all of you. And we will see you next week right here on Taking Control, the ADHD podcast.